I can't remember the exact date when I began telling lies, but I know it was during the school summer holidays. I was already 9 years old, having had my birthday in the springtime. Up until then, my little brother, who was 4 years younger than me, had simply been the baby. But then, in the space of a few weeks, he too was going to be attending school, and I wasn't amused. It had been exclusively my domain, that magical, mysterious place where big girls and boys would disappear to in the morning, then reappear from later in the day, bursting with knowledge and tales of wonder. Yes, the baby was going to become my equal. In fact, in a flurry of spending to purchase his school uniform, together with start-right shoes and leather satchel, not to mention the barbershop haircut, instead of the usual tufty quick clip from Mum, swiftly delivered with her kitchen scissors, my baby brother was being catapulted forward, overtaking me in the family dynamic to become the centre of attention. Not for him, the hand-me-down blazer, as there were no older male cousins to inherit from. So while I made do with Fat Tilly's offering, with its worn elbows and baggy pockets, Michael sported the latest wool worsted job from the very exclusive and expensive Boys and Girls shop. I'd never owned a uniform that wasn't second-hand. Was I jealous? Of course I was. I do remember that my first tall tale was delivered on a Friday. We always helped old Mrs. Gunn, our next door but one neighbour, with some of her shopping. She was a kind lady, but a bit odd and a tad infirm. We would tote home tinned vegetables for her when we picked up our shopping from the co-op after school. The order was always the same, 2 tins each of baked beans for her to serve on toast for tea twice a week, garden peas to accompany the double load of fatty mince and tatties she stewed to a sludgy pulp, and one of mushy peas for Friday's fish and chips. What she ate the rest of the week, I have no idea. I was given the job of delivering the said tins, and much as I liked the Jaffa cake Mrs. Gunn gave me as a reward, I feared the accompanying hug I also received. Mrs. Gunn was never without her apron. It was always caked in some indeterminate mixture of sticky substances and encrusted with dried-out crumbs. When she pulled me towards her for the dreaded hug, bits of the glutinous goo would stick to my face and hair. She had an odd aroma. A cloying, fishy odour emanated from her nether regions, an unwashed smell that I unfairly associated with all old ladies. Quite quickly, I realised that a clever story served as a distraction and would often save me from the impending embrace. So, while lifting the final tin, the mushy peas, from their plastic carrier bag, I said, "My cousin Enid died eating fish, you know." I never liked fish. I hated the smell of it and feared the perilous, spiky bones. "Oh, how terrible!" Mrs. Gunn replied. "Whatever happened to her?" I'd managed to stop the hug in its tracks. My lie grew legs. "A fish bone stuck in her throat. No one could save her. She choked to death. Her face was blue." The legs began to run. "It was in all the papers," I added for good measure. A step too far, perhaps. "I didn't read about it," Mrs. Gunn said. "Did it happen recently? Has the funeral been held yet?" "It was only in the English papers. Enid lived in London," I explained. "The funeral's next week, but we can't go." I was past the point of no return now, managing to avoid the hug and clutching a second Jaffa cake in my hot liar's hand. I triumphantly made my way home. It took 4 days for me to be found out. "Do you know what this is?" my mother asked, her face stiff with anger. She was clutching a small handwritten card. "Is it somebody's birthday?" I innocently replied. "This is a condolence card," she stated. "Why did you lie to Mrs. Gunn?" A jag of fear hit me square in the chest. I knew I was in trouble. There was no excuse for the lie, yet somehow it wasn't so bad. It was exciting, being the cause of such interest, and besides, what harm could befall me? My comic was on order at the newsagent, so I'd still receive it. I was a skinny, scrawny-looking child, so I knew Mum wouldn't deny me dessert after dinner. My weekly pocket money was put straight into the post office to save up for something in the future, so I wouldn't miss it. Eventually, after prizing the truth from me, I was sent to my room. Great. I didn't have to amuse the blonde cherubic Michael. Instead, I relaxed on my bed and buried my head in an illustrated book of myths and legends.